picture this for a second. You're walking down the corridor at work, you've got your coffee, you're mentally reviewing your afternoon schedule, and
Well,
suddenly,
let me guess. A senior director steps out of a conference room.
exactly, right out of a conference room, and they just stop you. There's like no calendar invite, there's zero warning. They just look right at you and ask for a quick update on that massive, incredibly complex project you have been running for the last 2 months.
Oh yeah, the classic hallway ambush is terrifying.
It is, and the worst part is, you know the details. Like, you are the absolute authority on this project. But in that exact second, your brain just decides to load everything all at once.
Right, the entire history just flashes before your eyes.
Exactly. You see the shifting context, the 3 panicked emails from last week, the budget constraints. It all bottlenecks right at the front of your mind, and you end up stuttering. Or, giving this really vague, rambling answer that eventually just kind of trails off into an awkward silence.
Which is the worst feeling.
And as they walk away, you're just left standing there thinking, I knew the answer. Why couldn't I just organize the words?
I mean, it is a completely universal feeling. And what we have to understand right off the bat is that the problem in that hallway isn't a lack of knowledge.
Right.
In almost every single case, it is an excess of knowledge paired with, well, a complete lack of structural delivery.
Which is exactly our mission for today's deep dive. We are digging into some incredibly practical source material today focused on the consultant method.
Yeah, specifically a communication architecture called the SCQ Framework.
Right. And just to set expectations for you right up front, this is about high-value corporate English. By the end of this deep dive, you will have the exact structures and the exact phrases to take a messy, complex problem and organize it into a crisp 30-second answer, even when the pressure is fully on.
Because when the stakes are high, especially, if you're communicating across different corporate cultures or working in a second language, having a reliable framework is literally a lifesaver.
Oh, totally.
It removes an enormous amount of cognitive load. You don't have to invent a way to organize your thoughts on the spot. You just pour your knowledge into this pre-existing mold.
I always think of giving a rambling answer like handing a senior director a giant handful of jigsaw puzzle pieces without letting them see the picture on the box first.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like, you are giving them all the right data, sure, but you're forcing them to do the exhausting mental work of assembling those pieces while you are still just talking at them.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. You're making them do your organizational work. But before we get to the framework of exactly what to say to provide that picture on the box, we kind of have to understand the psychology of why we drop those puzzle pieces in the first place.
Yeah, because we don't just randomly fail when we're caught under pressure.
Exactly. We default to one of 2 very specific failure modes.
Right, and the first one is the data dump, which is just, saying way too much.
Yeah, we unleash a total verbal avalanche. Every single observation, every vendor delay, every tiny piece of data from the last 8 weeks just pours out.
Right.
And we do this because of a cognitive bias called the curse of knowledge.
The curse of knowledge, meaning because I spent 80 hours staring at the spreadsheets, I falsely believe my boss needs to understand those exact same 80 hours to appreciate my conclusion.
Precisely. You are so terrified of leaving out the one detail they might care about. But in executive communication, leading with everything is literally the exact same thing as leading with nothing.
Because it's overwhelming.
Right. If you present 50 facts with equal weight, you force the listener to decide what the priority is, which they hate doing.
Okay, so that's the avalanche. But the second failure mode is the exact opposite, right? It's the defensive crouch.
Yes.
You get asked a hard question and you just retreat into vagueness. You say something like, well, it's a very complex situation. There are several nuanced factors at play.
Which feels incredibly safe in the moment,
Yeah.
but is entirely useless to the listener.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, saying it's complex is true of literally every business situation above an entry-level grade. It conveys absolutely zero new information, and it often comes paired with everyone's favorite non-answer, which is,
It depends.
it depends.
I hear that in meetings constantly. It is the ultimate verbal shield.
And our source material is actually ruthless about this. It depends is a total dead end unless you explicitly attach it to a variable.
Okay, wait, what does that look like in practice?
Well, if you catch yourself saying it depends, you're obligated to finish the thought. So it depends on whether we are optimizing for deployment speed or for long-term server cost.
Okay, so now you've given them a useful dependency to actually weigh.
Exactly. but on its own, it's just stalling.
It's the same as the verbal throat clearing we do, right? So there are a few things to consider here, and I think if we look at the history, it's just the verbal equivalent of shuffling a stack of papers on your desk to buy time.
Yes, and it signals to the listener that you are actively searching for your structure while your mouth is already moving.
Right.
Not a good look.
Which is why the consultants in the source material use a technique called setting the contract. Instead of throat clearing, you use a specific pre-framing phrase to tell the listener exactly how the information is about to arrive.
And the phrase from the text that really stood out to me was, let me give you the headline, and then we can go as deep as you need.
Let me give you the headline, and then we can go as deep as you need. I mean, think about the psychological work that single sentence is doing.
It's doing a lot.
It is. You are telling the listener, I have organized this. A concise summary is coming immediately.
But wait, doesn't offering to go deep right there in the hallway just invite that director to completely derail your afternoon? Aren't you basically volunteering for an interrogation?
It sounds risky, I know. But psychologically, it actually does the opposite. By saying as deep as you need, you are explicitly handing control of the depth dial over to the listener. You are respecting their time. Usually, a senior leader doesn't actually want a 20-minute briefing right there by the elevator.
No, they have somewhere to be. Exactly. They just want to test your competence. They want to know that you possess the depth if they ever require it.
So it's like a calming mechanism. You're basically saying, I have the 50-page report in my head, but I respect you enough to only give you the executive summary right now.
Exactly. It lowers their defenses right away. They can immediately relax and just listen, rather than bracing themselves for a rambling avalanche of data.
Okay, so we've set the contract. The listener is calm. They're waiting for this promised headline. How do we actually deliver it? Because if my brain is still chaotic, promising a headline doesn't magically produce one.
Right, and this is where the core architecture of the consultant method comes in. It's known as the SCQ Framework. SCQ.
And that stands for?
It stands for situation, complication, question, or sometimes people use resolution for the Q. And it consists of exactly 3 sentences.
Exactly 3. So how does that work in practice? Like if a project is falling apart, do I just launch right into the disaster?
No. Definitely not. Because starting with a disaster is what spikes the listener's anxiety. You have to start with sentence 1, which is the situation.
Okay.
This acts as your anchor. The human brain cannot process a new problem until it has a stable mental model of the status quo. So the situation establishes shared ground, something undeniably true that the listener already accepts.
And the consultants in the source material use a very specific anchor phrase here. They don't say historically or as you know, they say the context here is...
Right. And let's look at why that phrase works so well. Historically invites a history lesson, which implies a long, boring story is coming.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
And as you know, can sound slightly patronizing.
Oh, totally. Like, as you know, Bob.
Right. It's a bit condescending. But the context here simply establishes a neutral frame. For example, the context here is that our current software was built for a team of 50, and we now have 500 employees.
That's one sentence.
Exactly one sentence. And you and the listener are now standing on the exact same ground.
I see. So you aren't arguing yet. You're just building the frame so they know where to put the picture. Okay, so we have a stable anchor. What comes next?
Sentence 2 is the complication. This is the delta. It is where you introduce the tension, the news, or the actual mechanism of the problem.
And the phrase the source material leans on for this is what is not working is...
Yes. Notice the linguistic precision there. You aren't saying the problem is, the word problem sounds emotional, almost panic-inducing.
It makes people defensive.
Exactly.
Right.
But what is not working sounds like a mechanical failure waiting for an engineer to fix it. So, building on our previous example, you say, what is not working is that the system architecture cannot handle the concurrent logins, which is causing daily crashes during peak hours.
Okay, so you named the symptom, but you also named the underlying mechanism. You didn't just say the software is bad. You said the architecture can't handle the concurrent logins.
Exactly. So now we have the shared baseline, and we have the tension. That brings us to sentence 3, which is the question or the resolution. This is where you name what needs to be decided, or you offer your direct recommendation.
So if I'm proposing a solution, the phrase is, my view is that the priority is...
And your third sentence becomes, my view is that the priority is migrating to a cloud-based server solution within the next 90 days.
Wow. Let's run those 3 sentences back to back just to really hear the rhythm of it. SCQ.
Go for it.
The context here is that our current software was built for 50 people, and we now have 500. What is not working is that the architecture can't handle the concurrent logins, causing daily crashes. My view is that the priority is migrating to a cloud-based server solution within the next 90 days.
It is entirely stripped of emotion.
It really is.
Yeah.
Hearing it like that, it removes all the defensive weight from the situation. It just sounds like an objective math equation to be solved.
And that objectivity is deeply rooted in how we process information. The source material highlights research from Columbia Business School on executive decision-making.
Oh, this was fascinating.
Right. They found that leaders make better decisions, and they view their advisors as significantly more credible when information is presented in this exact order: situation, complication, resolution.
Over chronological order, or even like starting with the biggest fire first.
Yes. And we need to understand the mechanism behind why. If you start a conversation with the complication like, the server crashed and we're losing money,
Yeah.
the executive's amygdala, which is the threat detection center of the brain, immediately spikes.
They go straight into fight or flight mode.
Exactly. They start calculating risk, and they actually stop listening to your subsequent solution.
Right.
But SCQ soothes the brain first.
Right.
It basically says, here is the normal world. Here is the specific deviation from the normal world. Here is how we return to normal. You are perfectly matching the cognitive architecture of how the brain naturally wants to digest a threat.
But doesn't this run the risk of insulting their intelligence? I mean, if I'm dealing with a massive, sprawling operational issue, say a supply chain collapse involving 10 different international vendors, a customs strike, and a currency fluctuation, doesn't boiling all of that down to 3 sentences make me look like I don't grasp the messy reality of the situation?
That is the most common fear people have when adopting this method.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it doesn't oversimplify the problem because the framework is an entry point.
Right.
It is not a replacement for your deep analysis.
It's the front door to the house, not the whole house.
Exactly. Think of it like a doctor delivering a diagnosis. The doctor doesn't walk into the room and start reading your entire cellular blood chemistry panel out loud.
No, that would be terrifying.
They give you the baseline health, they name the specific new symptom, and they offer the prescription. The messy, complex blood work still exists in the chart if you want to see it. Providing a highly structured entry point into a complex problem proves that you can navigate the complexity without being consumed by it.
So SCQ is the perfect tool if you have, say, 5 minutes to sit at your desk and prepare your thoughts. But let's be real, the defining hallmark of the hallway ambush is that you have 0 minutes.
Sure.
If a director corners me and my brain hasn't formulated the SCQ yet, how do I keep myself from reverting right back to the data dump?
This is where we move into advanced tactics. The source material shares a verbal tactic that sounds slightly terrifying when you first hear it, but it is incredibly effective. It's called a commitment device.
Okay, how does that work?
When you are asked that massive, open-ended question and your mind is totally blank, you literally open your mouth and you say, there are 3 things here, let me take them in order.
Wait, I say that even if I literally do not know what those 3 things are yet.
Even if you have absolutely nothing, you say, there are 3 things here, let me take them in order.
That sounds like jumping out of an airplane and just trusting that you will be able to sew your parachute together on the way down. What if you only think of 2 things? Why would you purposefully trap yourself like that?
Because the trap is what saves you. It is a psychological trick you play on your own nervous system.
Really?
Yeah. By stating out loud that there are 3 things, you instantly force your brain out of panic mode and into structural mode. The act of making that verbal commitment produces the structure in real time.
Wow.
Because you promised 3 things, your brain will frantically scramble to find 3 things. And because you bought yourself a few seconds by saying the phrase, you almost always find that first point. By the time you are speaking the first point, your subconscious has already queued up the second.
It's like you are frantically putting tracks down right in front of the moving train.
That is exactly what you are doing.
Yeah.
But here's the magic. To the listener, it sounds like absolute, unshakable confidence. It sounds like you've been sitting at your desk all week, meticulously analyzing this exact question.
I can see how that bypasses the stuttering entirely. You give yourself a microtask. Just find point 1. So you use the commitment device, you lay down your tracks, you deliver your 3 points, then what? Do you just walk away?
No, you have to close the loop. Remember how we talked about handing control back to the listener?
Yeah.
The crucial follow-up phrase, what we might call offering the menu, is this. I can take you into the detail on any of those 3 layers. Where would you like to start?
Where would you like to start? It's so polite, but it totally shifts the power dynamic.
Right. You don't just keep talking. You wait for them to pull a thread.
Mm.
They might say, tell me more about the customs strike you mentioned in point 2. Suddenly, you are no longer being ambushed.
Right.
You are having a structured, guided conversation based entirely on their specific interest.
Mm-hmm.
You have taken a chaotic hallway collision and turned it into a focused executive meeting.
Let's shift gears slightly because a lot of our listeners do their most high-stakes communication asynchronously. We are living in Slack, Microsoft Teams, and overflowing email inboxes.
Oh, absolutely.
Does this SCQ architecture apply when we are typing instead of speaking?
It translates beautifully to written form, and it actually solves one of the most toxic problems in corporate culture, the wall of text.
Ugh, the wall of text.
Right. When you are writing an email to a senior stakeholder, you adapt to the commitment device.
Mm-hmm.
You open the email with the phrase, 3 things to know about this situation.
And then do you just write the SCQ out like a normal paragraph?
Never. You format it visually. You write your 3 sentences. Situation, complication, resolution. But you must use hard line breaks between them. Do not put them in one block paragraph.
So you are physically building white space into the message.
Yes. Think about the physical reality of a busy executive. They are probably opening your email on their phone while walking between meetings.
Right.
If they open it and see a solid gray block of dense text, their brain perceives it as a chore. They will close it and save it for later, which often means they never read it.
So true.
But if they open it and see 3 things to know, followed by 3 short, spaced-out sentences, the white space gives their brain room to breathe.
They can visually see that it will only take 15 seconds to read. You've respected their time before they even read the first word.
Exactly. You have done the heavy organizational lifting for them. In corporate communication, clarity is the ultimate sign of professional respect.
We have covered so much ground here. We started by diagnosing why we fail in those high-stakes moments, either succumbing to the curse of knowledge with a data dump, or hiding behind a vague "it depends."
Yeah.
We looked at how to calm the listener by setting a contract. We analyzed the cognitive mechanics of the SCQ framework using the context here is what is not working is, and my view is that the priority is.
Right.
And finally, we looked at how to hack our own panic with a commitment device and how to format our written updates to respect our readers' cognitive load.
It really is a complete operating system for professional clarity.
Which brings us to the listener challenge for this deep dive. This comes straight from the core philosophy of our source material, and it is highly practical. I want you to think of a complex, messy problem in your work right now, something you have been struggling to explain to your boss, your engineering team, or a client.
We all have at least one of those sitting on our desk right now.
Take that messy problem and write down exactly 3 sentences using the specific phrases we unpacked today. Sentence 1. The context here is sentence 2. What is not working is sentence 3. My view is that the priority is write it out on a piece of paper. And here is the strict rule. If it takes you more than 3 sentences, you have to delete it and rewrite it.
It's a great exercise.
Distill the problem until it fits that exact shape.
And as you work on that distillation, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We discussed the Columbia Business School research, showing that the SCQ structure aligns perfectly with how the human brain wants to digest a threat.
Right. It soothes the amygdala.
So if that is true, it raises a really fascinating question about the relationship between language and thought. Does adopting this framework do more than just change how you speak to others? If you consistently force your communication into this specific shaped situation, complication, resolution to deed, does it actually begin to rewire how you perceive and analyze business problems before you even open your mouth? Do you start seeing the chaotic world entirely in terms of clear context, sharp tension, and actionable priorities?
That is a profound idea. You're not just learning a way to talk, you're learning a way to think.
Precisely. Because the way we structure our words might just dictate the way we structure our reality.